All right, welcome everyone to the second episode this season of Sunny Days in Detroit. As most or all of you know, Lions dropped yesterday's game 20-16 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Very, very disappointing and avoidable loss for a lot of reasons. So we're gonna get right back. We're gonna get right into it. But first, let's kind of go through a lot of what happened yesterday and why it is so frustrating. So the reason it is frustrating is not because we believe that we are a better, more superior, more talented team than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because we are, right? Or rather, they are. The Lions have more talent. I would say they have a better coaching staff. They've got they're better pretty much on every facet of the ball. If you want to argue, maybe Tampa Bay's got a better receiving core. Outside of that, a couple little things here and there, we have the edge in most cases. What makes it so frustrating is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were playing with a depleted secondary, right? Their best player in the secondary, arguably, Antoine Winfield, out. Vita Vea throughout the game at D tackle comes out. Cansey, their first-round pick, was out, didn't play. And that was just three of the notable injuries that I knew off the top of my head. Multiple chances in the end of the game to score and win the game. They didn't capitalize on it. Goff has two awful turnovers. Trying to constantly force feed the ball to St. Brown, and he did have a multitude of catches. He had over 100 yards, but you could see that he obviously starts the season a little slow, and they're trying to force him the ball rather than naturally see who's open or try to get other guys going. They're going right for 14, and I get it. He's the premier receiver here. He's the number one. Although Jameson Williams is very quickly making a case for himself to be the 1B in this offense. St. Brown, until further notice, is the number one wide receiver. He's the most dependable guy that they've got, but they're clearly trying to force him the ball. They're ignoring a guy like Sam Laporta, who I believe got targeted 3 times yesterday. 1-8 in the red zone, unacceptable. You're never going to win a game. I don't care who you're playing. You're never going to win if you're 1-8 in the red zone. You're just not. You can't have that many opportunities and fail. You can't come that close and turn it over, especially on a day where Aiden Hutchinson is feasting, gets himself 4.5, really should have been 5 sacks in that game. Brian Branch, I believe, turns the ball over with an interception. Very frustrating because Baker Mayfield and that Tampa Bay offense is a good offense. They know how to score points, and the Lions were able to hold them to 20, which is not anything great necessarily, especially in your own stadium, but the way that the Lions defense has looked the past, I don't even know, decade basically, that's a very impressive day, right? And the Lions should have found a way to win that game. They had multiple opportunities. Dan Campbell, I didn't listen to what he had said today at the podium, but listening to him at half, listening to him post-game, he blamed himself. And he's right for doing so. When you're the head coach, the success and the failures are ultimately going to fall on you. And I always say a great head coach blames himself for the losses and credits everybody else for the wins. And that's really what Dan Campbell's done since he's gotten here. He's not quick to throw anybody under the bus. He doesn't even really say we when he talks about a loss. He talks about himself, and you could tell he really let this one hit him hard. And honestly, he should. It's very difficult to win games in the NFL. It's not at all an easy thing to do. And when you've got a game on your schedule that's sorry, we got a little Zen in. When you have a game in your schedule that's at home, a depleted team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you're a 7.5-point favorite. You've got to rack up a win there. It's in September. Most of your team is healthy. come November, December, your team's not going to look this way. You're going to have a couple guys out. You're going to have a couple guys on IR. And you need to take advantage now when you've got guys at full health to stack up those wins, because you're going to lose a game in November that you shouldn't. You're going to lose a game in October and December that you shouldn't. And you're just making it that more difficult come January, especially with the Minnesota Vikings winning yesterday, 2-0. The Green Bay Packers finding a way to win without their quarterback and Jordan Love. You're making it more difficult on yourself later in the season than it needs to be. You want to lock down that division championship. You want to lock down at least one home playoff game, and it's just that much harder when you lose a game like this in September. For me, what stood out the most from this loss, I think, was the reluctance to run the ball. And I got to give Paul some credit. Paul was at the game. So Paul was talking to me about this. So this not all coming from me, but the offensive line was kind of exhausted. And they're pass blocking the entire game. Jared Goff dropped back 55 times. Typically, when you drop back 55 times, one of two things is going to happen, and sometimes both those things are going to happen. You may throw for 4 or 5 touchdowns, but you're most certainly going to turn the ball over. Probably not once, probably twice, because that's just the law of averages in the NFL. You drop back that much, you give a secondary 55 times to pick you off, they're going to pick you off, and they did twice. And Goff's play yesterday is concerning, and I'll get into that in a minute, but what was most concerning to me, like I said, was the reluctance to run the ball. I'll get the exact numbers here. I know Jahmyr Gibbs averaged 6.5 a carry, 13 rushes for 84 yards. So roughly a little under 20 carries yesterday. Well under 20 carries. Oh, that's 16 carries. You passed 55 times, you carried the ball 16 times, and two of them were a rush from Jared Goff leaving the pocket. So it's really less than that, right? It's really 14 rushes. That's a problem. You want to be in the NFL to be a successful team. Typically, you want to be at a healthy, 55-45, almost 50-50 ratio of run to pass. You want to leave the defense as honest as they can when playing the pass. You don't want them drop back in a cover 3, cover 2 all game, just waiting for you to throw the ball, because you're bound to turn the ball over, and the Lions did. And it's just so frustrating because, as I said before, Jahmyr Gibbs averaged 6.5 a carry. Between him and David Montgomery, I mean, most fans in the NFL would kill for an all-pro offensive line in front of you and 2 running backs as talented as Montgomery and Gibbs are back there, and not even to mention the new kid, Hakai, that they got in the 6th round this year. Most fans would kill for that, and they were running with success. So to see Ben Johnson constantly force the pass game on us was just ridiculous, and that was what Tampa Bay prepped for. That's what they played for. And it paid off. And it's just silly because I firmly believe had the Lions come out, and no team would do this, but if they really wanted to, they probably could have came out in a power I formation the entire second half and just ran the ball, and they probably could have won the game on field goals. They probably could have killed the clock and won the game on maybe a touchdown and the rest being field goals, and they just didn't. There was just I don't know what it was. It was almost Ben Johnson was allergic to running the ball yesterday, and I don't want to see that. You're coming up on a game here in Arizona next week, 4:25 start in Arizona, not at home, right? The first 2 games were at home. Now they're going on the road. You're playing in a different time zone. Arizona's got a high-flying, high-scoring offense. Second week in a row, they were either over 30 or very close to 30. Week 1, week 2. Week 2, I turned the game off at 34 points. It's a very high-scoring, high-flying offense They've got a mobile quarterback. They've got a great group of receivers there. They could put points up. And if you sit there and you try to play catch up, and you've got a quarterback that still is not at his usual self, and you're still trying to force feed the ball to St. Brown, you're gonna leave that stadium 1-2. There's a good chance you can go out and you can play your best football Sunday and still maybe lose that game. That's how good I think Arizona is this year, or rather how potent their offense is. The turnovers, right? I mean, we could sit here and we could bitch about Dan Campbell and we could bitch about Ben Johnson. Jared's got to take better care of the ball. That's just fact. There's no dancing around it. It's the elephant in the room, no doubt about it. But as an offensive coordinator, when you see that your quarterback doesn't have it, and that's just what it is. He's not the only quarterback to look poorly past couple of weeks. Dak Prescott's looked like shit. Jalen Hurts, I mean, we'll see what he looks like tonight. Week 1 did not look fantastic. A lot of quarterbacks, a lot of big-name quarterbacks are not really playing their best football right now. So Jared Goff isn't alone. It's no secret that these guys not playing in the preseason is definitely hurting the progression early in the season. But as an offensive coordinator, it's your job to identify that, because I know if my fat ass on the couch could see that Jared Goff doesn't have it, you as a coach should be able to see that as well. And when you see your guy doesn't have it, you got to fall back on what works. And what works is that run game. And at a minimum, if you had ran the ball like you were supposed to, you could have made the defense a little more honest, and maybe caught them with their pants down once or twice or 3 times in that game, and you wouldn't have had an opportunity to hit Sam Laporta or Jameis at another time there, or maybe Gibbs on a screen pass. Who knows? But when you're just constantly pushing the ball down the field and it's going nowhere, you need to abort. You need to walk away, and you need to fall back on what you do best, and you need to let your offensive line get aggressive. When your offensive line is just staying in place, pass blocking, on their heels the entire time, you're kind of killing them, and you're not really getting them going. You're not getting any momentum going. You're not getting any great communication going. When you're not giving them any confidence, when you could run the ball and you could let these guys drive forward and put a guy on his ass like Frank Ragnow does often, like Penei Sewell does often, and at times Taylor Decker. When you do those things, you're creating that aggression within the offensive line. You're building that confidence throughout the game, and you're taking that will from the defense. You're exhausting that defense. But when the defense is just playing pass defense, they got energy all day to play with you, because there's no aggression, there's no physicality at the line really, and you're making these guys play on their heels. So I want to see. I think we'd all like to see them be a lot more organized next week. You can't have another mishap on the sideline at the end of a half when you have an easy, free 3 points. Your field goal team rushes on the field while your quarterback's trying to clock the ball. And you can't even get mad at Goff there for telling guys to get back on the sideline because there's 2 seconds of it. He's got to spike it. That's on your coaching staff. Your coaching staff's got to be prepared. Your coaching staff has to know the situation. Someone's got to be reining these guys back in. I don't know who told them to run on the field. That's high school nonsense. That's ridiculous. And in the end, in lower level college and high school, maybe they won't get you for that, right? You could maybe get away with that, but in the NFL officials are gonna get you that 10 times out of 10. And that's just not something that could happen. I think going forward, in Arizona next week, I'd like to see them be a balanced offense. I would love to see them run more than they throw, but that's probably not going to happen. But I'd like to see them get closer to 50%. If they could be in the 40 to 45% range in the run game, I'd be thrilled. Because now that's a game you can control. You can control how much time comes off the clock. You can control how many times Kyler Murray gets the ball in his possession. And you create discomfort within their defense and also within their offense, because now they're hustling to catch up with you. Now they're trying to play keep up. as opposed to just lighting up the scoreboard and you trying to keep up with them. I don't have too much more here. The defense looked good yesterday. As I said, they kept Tampa to 20 points. Gave up a few big gains, one of which was a penalty on Terrion Arnold, who ultimately has looked very good, very aggressive so far. Brian Branch had a great game yesterday. The linebacking core was up and down. I know Alex Anzalone went out with a with concussion protocol, whatever. So hopefully he's okay. Hopefully no concussion there, and he can go on Sunday. I'm gonna have to check the injury report for him. But not a lot of bad things you could say about this defense. They ultimately did their job. They applied a ton of pressure to Baker Mayfield. You know, late in the game they let him slip through. That's going to happen. It's on the offense to score. You cannot put up 16 points and hope to win, because in the NFL, unless it's the 2000 Ravens defense behind you, you're not going to win anything in this league scoring 16 points. Unless, of course, you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, and apparently you don't have to score touchdowns to win, which is unbelievable, but good for them. They're 2-0. We're 1-1. Bad news is we lost. Good news is a lot of really good teams are 1-1. A lot of playoff teams are 1-1. There's some really good teams that are 0-2. The Ravens, the Rams. So, you know, it's September football. It's sloppy, but it's got to improve. And if I'm looking at anyone, as I said, it's Ben Johnson. I don't know how great Jared Goff is going to look on Sunday. Hopefully we see some progression. Hopefully we see some more confidence. But I'm looking at Ben Johnson to kind of read the room and be ahead of that. And the only way to make Jared look better, the only way for Jared to play better, ultimately is for this Lions offense to go back to their bread and butter, be black and blue, and run the ball. Run the ball down Arizona's throat, force them to play inside, force them to blitz you, and you're going to get your chances. You are absolutely going to get your chances for some of those big passing plays, but it's not going to happen if you keep forcing it. And so that's ultimately the message I hope that gets back to the Lions coaching staff here. They're 1-1 as easily as they could be 1-1. They could be 0-2. They could also be 2-0. Like I said, they had two chances late in that game to score and win the game with whatever it was, 30 seconds left. Could have made them 2-0, and we probably we'd be complaining, but we'd be a whole lot happier complaining. And just as easily as they could be 2-0, they could also be 0-2. Last week's game came down to overtime. It came down to the Lions winning the coin toss and just driving down the field and scoring. Had the Rams won the coin toss, who knows what would have happened? It's very possible this team could be 0-2, and they're not. So they got to pick themselves up. It doesn't really get easier here. You've got the Cardinals, as I said, and then the week after that, you have the Seahawks, who look like they're in midseason form right now. They're 2-0. I believe they're 2-0. They look real good. We've got them on Monday night, potentially the debut of the blue jerseys. Not the blue jerseys, the black jerseys. Yeah, the Seattle Seahawks are 2-0. They've got the Dolphins here this week. So let's see what happens. I mean, they played two tight games here. Beat the Broncos 26-20 week 1. Week 2, beat the Patriots 23-20. So who knows? Who knows what kind of Seahawks game we're going to see? That's usually a high-scoring, close call in the end type game. Usually disappointing all of us. I don't think the Lions have beaten the Seahawks since 2012. So overdue for a win. But I'm looking at Ben Johnson. If he can clean this up, this team could win. They can get right back on track, 2-1, and look ahead to the Seahawks. If you're looking down the barrel at 1-2, things start to get desperate quickly. You don't want to be in that situation. And it's not the end of the world, but you're digging yourself a hole to come out of. You know, it's not easy to go on a 5-0, 6-0 run in the NFL. You're going to have losses spread out here and there. You know, the Lions went from being the prey to the predator, and you've got a big target on your back, right? When one of your receivers is in a major Netflix documentary and guys are getting paid in the offseason and you're in an NFC championship and people are talking about you and you got a loud and proud head coach, like, you now become the team with the target on their backs. And it's much different playing every week when you are the expected winner as opposed to the underdog. And you go from playing, Sunday 1:00 to 4:30 in prime time and Monday night and Thursday night and Sunday night. So it's a different brand of football to get used to, and they need to adjust quickly. And I think it's always going to start with Dan Campbell. He is this team. He is the spokesperson of this team. He is the guy in charge of this team and this organization. But I'm looking to Ben Johnson here. The defense can only play so well. There's still some weak spots there. That offense is top tier. It's an offense that should be averaging, I would say, anywhere in the neighborhood of 26.9 to 29, 30 points a game. And you're not going to do anything at 16 points. You're just not in this league. So let's hope we see a better version of the Detroit Lions on Sunday. Let's hope that we see some cleaner football, less penalties, false starts, late hits, the pass interference. I mean, a little ticky-tack there, but this is the NFL, and you know those things are coming, right? You know that you're going to get flagged for roughing the passer once or twice a game, especially when you've got a guy as aggressive as Aiden Hutchinson back there. And you know what? If you're getting 4.5 sacks, I don't care if you get a ticky-tack foul at some point, because the only way to get to that level of 4.5 sacks or 5 sacks is turning up that aggression, turning up the intensity. And unfortunately, what comes with that is penalties. So I'm looking at the offense to play close to mistake-free on Sunday. You do that, you don't turn the ball over, you run the ball hard, you'll win. It's that simple. You come out lazy, not lazy, but you come out sloppy, and you're throwing to the other team. Yeah, a team like Arizona is going to walk all over you. They are going to run the score up real quick. So this was a gut check for the Detroit Lions. This was definitely a week they're going to have to take a hard look in the mirror and ask themselves what and who they are. And hopefully there's a better version on Sunday. And I'm looking forward to it. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we will see you at the Sunny Days Media Football Show Thursday before Thursday Night Football. So tune in for that.